Welcome back to day 32 of online learning. Today we're going over Unit 7, Lesson 3.2, and I'm going to pull up our objectives of what we're focusing on for today now. So our success criteria for today is what we're going to be focusing on throughout the video. So by the end of this, you should be able to say that I will be able to subtract 3-digit numbers by using different strategies that involve breaking numbers into parts, adding up, or subtracting back. And also I will be able to solve addition and subtraction problems and compare story problems. So those are the two skills that we're going to be working on today. What I want us to do right now is we're going to go over one of our problems from your have-to yesterday on pages 430 to 431. And that's when we were working on problems that involved the Oregon Trail. So we are following one family's journey, and we are tracking how much distance they traveled every time that they stopped, and we are comparing between two distances how far they went. So for number 3, it said, when the family arrives at Fort Laramie, they are 650 miles from the start of the trail. How far did they travel from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up the map that you were able to use for these problems so we can figure out how far they traveled from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie. So the problem says that they traveled from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie. So we need to figure out the distance between Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie. Pause me and think about how many miles have they traveled so far when they stopped at Scotts Bluff. So at Scotts Bluff, they already traveled 596 miles, and then we're trying to figure out the distance between here from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie, which is here. So pause me and take notes of the rules of the most important parts of this problem. So if I was to take notes of this problem, I see that when the family arrives at Fort Laramie, they are 650 miles from the start of the trail. So at Fort Laramie, and I'm just going to write FL, they had traveled 650 miles from the start. And it's comparing how far did they travel from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie. So my question is, how far from SB is going to be Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie? I'm missing a key part of information that I need in order to solve this. Pause me and think about what else I need to be writing in order for me to solve this. In order to figure out how far from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie, I need to figure out how far from Scotts Bluff from the beginning. How far they already traveled when they got to Scotts Bluff. So I'm going to look back on my map, and I see that they already traveled 596 miles from the start. So from the beginning of their journey, they traveled 596 miles to Scotts Bluff, which I'm going to write SB for Scotts Bluff, and then they traveled from here to here, which was 650 miles, which is when they stopped at Fort Laramie. So I need to figure out from here to here, how much did they travel from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie. Pause me and think about an equation that I can use to represent this problem. To represent this problem, I can use the equation 596 plus what equals 650. And the reason I'm using that equation is because I know that I need to figure out how much more to get to the total of 650. I could have also done 650 minus 596 because it's a fact family, so they're all going, this will be the same answer both ways. So if my equation is 596 plus what equals 650. What I want you to do is use one of our strategies to solve this equation. Pause me now and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a number line, and I know that my number line should start at 596, and then it's going to end at 650. And the reason it's going to end at 650 is the fact that I need to figure out how much is in between, from how much more do I need from 596 to get to 650. And what I'm first going to do is I want to make 596 a friendly number. I want to make it so that it's super easy for me to add up. So how much should I add from 596 to make it a friendly number? Pause me and think about that now. So I'm going to add 4 because 596 plus 4 is 600. And by adding 4, I'm able to get to an easy number that's easy for me to add tens, add ones. It's very friendly. It's an easy number for me to work with. And now I see that I need to add how much to get from 600 to 650. Pause me and think about what I need to add now. I need to add 50 more because I know 600 plus 50 equals 650. So my equation now is 4 plus 50, which is equal to 54. So I'm going to write 54 here. And my answer, it's asking me how far do they travel from Scotts Bluff to Fort Laramie? So they traveled 54. Pause me and think about what my label is. What is my unit of measurement? 54 miles is my answer. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking 3 different word problems and we're going to be comparing about what kind of strategies we need to be using. The different types of word problems that we can be doing are taking apart and putting together, comparing, or taking from. So, our first word problem is the farmer grew 352 pumpkins. He sold 168 of them. How many did he have left? What I want you to do now is take notes of this problem and write me an equation that shows this story problem. If I was to be writing my notes, I would know that he had 352 pumpkins. He sold 168 of them. And it's asking us, how many did he have left? That's our question is. So an equation that I can be using to show this would be 352 minus 168 equals what? So what this type of story problem or word problem is, this is called a take from strategy. Pause me and think about why this word problem is a take from strategy. It's pretty much, it's in the name. You're starting with a certain amount and then you're taking away another amount. So we started with 352 and we're taking away 168. So let's take a look at another word problem. So this is, I have 352 bottle caps in my collection. My friend has 168 in her collection. How many more bottle caps do I have than my friend? Pause me now and take notes that represents this problem. Pause me and think about an equation that I can use to represent this problem. I could do a couple different strategies. I could do 168 plus blank equals 352. Or I could do 352 minus 168 equals what? And the reason I could do either is because I'm able to think about, so if I start with 168, how many more do I need in order to get to 352 bottle caps? This type of subtraction problem is called a comparing subtraction problem. And that's because you're comparing how many one person has, or how much one object is, and compare it to how much another object is. So we're comparing how many the friend has, then how many do I have. So this is a comparing problem. Let's take a look at this next problem. It says there are 352 kids in our school. 168 of them are girls. How many are boys? Pause me and take notes to show this problem. Pause me and think about an equation that I can use to represent this. I could do 352 minus 168. Because I know that there's 352 total, that's my biggest number, then I'm taking away how many girls there are to figure out how many boys are left. In this type of equation, subtraction equation, is a put together or a take apart problem. And it's a put together and a take apart problem because we're splitting up 352 into two groups. We're taking apart the boys and the girls. So we're splitting up how many students that there are. We're splitting it up into two different categories. So there's the take from equation, and that's when I'm taking away something. There's the comparing problem when I'm trying to figure out how much more or less. And then there's also the put together and take apart, and that's when I'm breaking up my total into two smaller categories. Like if I was to break up 352 kids into how many boys and how many girls. What I want you to do is, before we go over how to solve this problem, I want you to pause the video and go to the assignment tab and comment below the 3 different types of subtraction problems we just went over. Even though our problems were different types of subtraction problems, they all had the same equation, which was 352 minus 168. What I want you to do now is pause me and solve this by yourself, and we're going to come back and share our strategies. What you could have done is you could have used a number line to represent this. And if I'm using a number line, I know that I'm going to start on the right side for 352. One way I can do this is I can break up 168 into 100 plus 60 plus 8. And I can break it up by place value, but only that one number am I going to break up. So I'm first going to take away 100. And remember, all I'm doing is focusing on the hundreds place. My tens and ones won't change. So I'm going to take away 100 from 352, which would be 252. Now I need to take away 60. And I see that I don't have enough tens to take away 60. So pause me and think about, what can I do to solve this if I don't have enough tens in 252 to take away 60 super easily from the tens place? What I can do is I can draw this out and draw 252. 200, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to take away 60. So minus 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then I need to take this 100 and regroup it into 10 tens, because 10 tens is equal to 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so I already took away 50, so now I need to take away one more, so 60. So I have 192. So 192. Another way I could have thought of this is I know that I can take away 50 from 252 to get 202, because I'm only focusing on that tens place. And then I can count backwards minus another 10, because I need to make sure that 10 plus 50 equals 60. So now minus 10, I'm going to dip into my hundreds place and get 192. I'm regrouping one of the hundreds into tens. And then I need to take away 8. So 192 minus 8, I can first take away 2 and break up 8. So I would get 190. So I broke up 8 into 2 plus 6. So all I did is 190 minus 2 to get a friendly number. And then I still need to take away 6 more. So 190 minus 6 is 184. Pause me and think about a different way that you could have solved this. Another strategy that I could have used for 352 minus 168 is broke up 168 into numbers that are easy for me to subtract from. So I could have started with 352 minus 100, which is equal to 252. And now I want to take away 52. And the reason I'm taking away 52 is 252 minus 52 is then just an easy 200. So I didn't add up, I didn't take away just tens or just ones. I didn't break it up by place value. Instead, I broke it up by finding a friendly number. So 252 minus 52 is equal to 200. Now I need to be thinking about, so if I have 100 plus 52, how much more do I need to figure out 168? Pause me and think about how much more do I need to subtract in order to make sure that what I'm taking away is equal to 168. So I realize that I still need one more 10, because 50 plus 10 is 60. So now I have my hundreds and tens place. So I have 200 minus 10 is equal to 190. And then I already did 2 in my ones place. So 2 plus what equals 8? 2 plus 6 equals 8. So now I need to do 190 minus 6, which is equal to 184. So all I did is I broke up my 168 into numbers that were super easy for me to take away and also get to friendly numbers. I'm going to pull up your have-to for today so we can take a look at subtraction problems. Here's your have-to for today. It's subtraction strategies, and the directions are to solve these problems and show your solutions. So for 1, 2, and 3, you need to be showing your work on how you are solving these equations. Make sure for number 3, which is a word problem, that you're taking notes about the rules of this problem. Now let's take a look at your have-to. For today, you need to complete A74, which is subtraction strategies, and then do 15 minutes on IXL only on highlighted skills. Take a look at the rubric below, and in order to get a 3, you need to do all the problems on page A74, show your work, and do 15 minutes on IXL on highlighted